Hi, I'm Lance Lambert. Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are at Bob's Big Boy Drive-In in Burbank, California. If you're a longtime watcher of the show, you know we've been here in the past. This is Mecca. We are at the place where it all happens here in Burbank. So we're going to do what we do every week. You are going to see some great cars, meet some great people, hear some great music. So do what I tell you to do every week. Just kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. You know, here at Bob's Big Boy, there's a lot of great cars that come cruising through, and every once in a while, one will come through that basically parts the seas. Well, Billy Record, your 1932 Ford that is fitted out with some high-performance equipment, looks fantastic. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a small block Chevy motor. It's got twin vortex superchargers on it. The motor was built in Greenland, New Hampshire by Joe Moriarty.
Well, the thing that stands out the most on this is, of course, the twin superchargers. How did that come about, and how well does it work?
It's like driving a wet bar of soap. It went 130 and a quarter mile in 1041, and originally it had Paxtons on it. Mm-hmm. And J.R. Granatelli put those on.
So how about the rest of the car? I see you've got a cage roll bar in there. And
oh yeah, it's got a lot of cage. It, like I said, it ran 130, mm-hmm. And they insisted I put a cage in it. I had just a single loop cage in it one time.
So you were the one behind the wheel at 130 miles an hour?
Oh yes. See, I grew up in Ivo's garage, and I toured with him with the 2-engine car, the 4-engine car, the jet car. He lived down the street from us.
So Billy, you've been coming here to Bob's Big Boy for a long time?
Yeah, since I was 13 years old. I grew up in Ivo's garage, and
Tommy Ivo.
Right, and we used to come here all the time and then go down to the River Road. It's,
what kind of changes? I mean, it looks like it probably looked the same in the 1960s here.
It's pretty much the same. They've modernized it, but it always had the alley and the cars parked there, but they parked the other way.
When you were 13 years old, what kind of cars would somebody see here?
Hot rods.
So a lot of the stuff that's here today would have been here back then.
Absolutely.
What would you tell any 13-year-old viewers that are watching the show right now? What would you tell them about the hobby?
Don't do any drugs or any alcohol and save your money, and you can have one of these things, and it's a lot of fun. It's a very clean hobby.
So Billy, with this setup that you have here, what's this car sound like? I mean, I heard it when it's coming in, but I think the viewers would like to hear it.
I'll start it up for you.
Will you fire it up?
Sure.
All right. Chris Bartosh, a 1953 Plymouth is something you don't see very often out anywhere. Tell us about this one.
It's rare. That's exactly what attracted me to the car. I mean, you're not going to see anything like this anyplace.
And if you do see them, they're stock. I haven't seen one that's been mild custom like this. You've got the louvers and the running gear. What all have you done to it?
I've basically done everything mechanical to it. I bought it with the body and the suspension more or less finished, but I went ahead and customized the car as far as the engine, transmission, rear end, cooling system, charging system, ignition system, fuel system. I've done a lot of work to it that you don't see.
Yeah. So what is the running gear in it?
It's a 360 20 over block with a 4-inch crank. It makes it about a 406, and it's got about 450 horse. And it's got a 727 transmission with a 3,000 stall B&M converter, Ford 9-inch rear end with 350 posi, 4-link coilover in the back, and the front is a Heights Mustang 2 front clip.
I really appreciate cars that you don't see at car shows or car events all the time, and this certainly falls into the top of the list in that category. So what kind of reaction do you get from people having something that's so different?
It's mixed. I mean, there's a lot of people that say, I remember those cars when I was a kid. My dad used to drive those around, And then other people say, it looks like a car I used to know, but it's more modern. And that's what I like about it, too. A lot of different reactions, but people more or less love it.
When you bought it, was it a rust bucket, boxes of parts, or did you have something pretty solid to start with?
No, it had really good bones. I mean, it basically, on the outside, it was almost like you see it today. But it's just the stuff that I've done that you can't see that has been changed, major.
Bob's Big Boy, it's pretty exciting for us to be here. We've shot shows here before, but it just, it's a combination that seems to have not failed.
It's nostalgia. I mean, it's been here for a long time. It's been on the map. A lot of people come here every week. There's different cars every time you come here. It's the chemistry, You get this energy level going sometimes, and other times it's more mellow. It just depends. That's what I like about it. It's exciting.
So if you could arrive at Bob's Big Boy in any car ever manufactured, what would it be?
I'm standing next to it.
That's the answer I was going for. Chris, thanks for being on the show.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Faith Jackie Granger, you have a great car, you have a great look. You look very comfortable up there. Tell us about the car and tell us about you.
Where do I start? The car's been around for quite some time. It's a fairly older hot rod. It's a car that actually came from Minnesota. It is a 32 from Minnesota that was hot rodded first in the early 70s. I tracked down the history of the car and found that I was the 10th owner. I had the pleasure to talk to all 9 owners that previously owned it and really found out how the car progressed over the years. It used to run a flathead, and I had a small block Chevy. Now it's up to a 350 Chevy engine. The car itself is very nostalgic. It's a traditional hot rod, which is why I loved it. A lot of the parts on the car are original. I'm still running brakes from the 40s. Buick fin drums, which are becoming harder and harder to find. Most people want to upgrade to disc brakes, to more modern, because it's, it drives better. But I believe that some people need to preserve some of the older technology so that people can still see it and enjoy it. So this is what this car is about.
The older technology with the 1940 brakes, do you give an extra car length or two between you and the cars in front of you, or is it still pretty good technology?
Well, let's put it this way. When I want to brake, I start in the previous zip code. Yeah. That's pretty much like that. But actually, no, I know that one time somebody blocked my entire lane who wasn't paying attention. And when I really needed my brakes and I really slammed on them, the car really stopped. But, when you are driving, you get a very good workout. Your gluteus workout, because it's very, very hard to brake.
What is the power plant on it?
It's a 350, as I mentioned, small block Chevy. With tri-power, which I really like, which is also very nostalgic. I'm working on making the car kind of look 1955 period correct.
Which is because you are making a movie. Tell us about that.
Yes, I am in the process of making a movie, which is a completely crazy idea that I had after I completed a 1-hour short film entitled Last of the Highboy Girls, in which I shared my experience as a woman driving a 32 Roadster. And I had so much fun doing it that I decided, well, wouldn't it be crazy to make a movie? Why not? So, just very quickly I went from having just the idea to actually jumping in, writing the script, and doing pre-production, casting, and buying all the gear I need to film on a better, quality level. The title of the movie is Deuce of Spades, because this is a deuce, and because there was a spade on the firewall. It's a car from 1955. It was the fastest roadster in the Los Angeles area. The premise is that a girl buys the car in 2007, and while working on the car one day, in the very back of the quarter panel, she finds a letter. And it's an old letter from 1955 that has been lost inside the Roadster and for 50 years, and now resurfaces. When she finds this letter, she's very intrigued by the person who wrote it, what he's saying in the letter, and she sets out to find out who this man is, why the letter is in her car, and by doing so, she uncovers events that took place in 1955 with the owner of this car, the Deuce of Spade.
Well, Jackie, I have seen several 1932 Fords here tonight. We talked to an owner of another one, but I think the impact of you in this car and then meeting you and your knowledge of the car and your love for the whole hobby is pretty impressive. We're very, very glad you were on the Vintage Vehicle Show with us.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on your show.
I have owned 3 Oldsmobiles in the past, a 52, a 54, and a 56, and they all were great cars, but I never owned a 50, and I certainly never owned a 50 that looks as good as this one, George. This is a beautiful car.
Thank you very much.
How did this come about? Is this something that you put together over a long time, or you signed a check for it, or how did this all come together?
Well, actually, it's a funny story. I've had the car for 25 years. My wife bought it for me on our 20th anniversary, and stock original, and over the years I've just slowly modified it. The body is stock, but everything else has been upgraded so I can drive it.
And the upgrading consists of what?
I put a Fat Man clip Mustang front end on it. It's got a ZZ4, 700 R4, Ford 9-inch rear end, and of course it's got power steering, air conditioning, power windows, and I just last week finished the air ride suspension in it. So
decades ago, was a 50 Oldsmobile on the top of your list of what you were seeking out, or did it just a love that was grown later in life?
No, I always wanted one, and I went and looked at this one, and the guy wanted more money than I wanted to spend, and I went home and I threw it on the table, and about 3 weeks later at our 20th anniversary party, my wife gave it to me.
Wow, you have a good wife.
Yeah, real good.
The thing that's cool about these is they look like a 50 Chev that was handed over to Gene Winfield or George Barris and customized, and just the grill works so well on these, and they're just great looking cars.
No, I love it. I like the Chevys too, but this one is unique. It stands out. All the 50 Oldsmobiles are unique. They stand out.
Color choice on this, not a color you see all the time, but...
No, again, at the time, my 14-year-old son, when they bought the car, he took it somewhere. They put 56 Ford paint on it, an Earl Scheib job. That was this color, and about 5 years later, I changed it. But same color, but redid the car.
You redid Earl.
Right.
So Jay Leno just came through, and so if he pulled up next to you tonight here at Bob's Big Boy and pulled out his checkbook and said, name the number, you wouldn't let him have it?
Well, it'd have to be an awful high number. I've turned down $50,000 for it, and I think he's smarter than that to pay that much for this car.
He is smarter, but I'll bet you he's got like 50, probably 25 in one pocket and 25 in the other.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. Well, I believe this is an absolutely gorgeous car, George. Thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show, and maybe I have to add a 50 to my other Oldsmobile collection. There's some people that we have had on the show that have such a great collection of cars that we have them on the show again. Mike Malamut, the last time we interviewed you, you had little bubble cars and Izettas and all kinds of little things.
That's right.
This is about as far from an Izetta or a bubble car as you can get, a 1947 Town and Country.
That's right. You could put a couple Izettas in the trunk of this one.
Well, I see Bear is back, your dog.
Bear's back. He likes this one. It's got more room than the Izetta, that's for sure.
How'd this come into your collection? Tell us about
It's
it.
a special car. I have a 41 Town and Country Woody Barrelback, one of 15 that is left in the world. And I've always enjoyed the sedans. I think they're really a nice family car, plenty of room. They have a nice look with a rack. I think they're real special. And I've been looking for years to find one, and most of them the wood's beat up or they're junk. And a real good buddy of mine had this for a few years, and I kind of talked him out of it. He's from Santa Barbara, and he's a friend of mine, and he finally says, okay, Mike, you can have it. It's yours. So I'm just fortunate to be a custodian of this nice car.
Maybe you can clear up a mystery that's not really a mystery, but Woodies have always been popular, but it's always been station wagons and surfers and all that stuff, and sedans like this, I don't think for a long time were appreciated for how incredible they are. And then somebody about, 20 years ago flipped a switch, and you have to pay huge money for these.
Yes, absolutely. The sedans are rare. They didn't build a lot of them, and I think as far as utilitarian, if you compare this to, say, a convertible Lance, this is much more easier to drive, to get into. It's got the extra doors, and it's the kind of car that you can grab the family, the dog, jump in, and you're still going to be in style. I think people forget about it. It's got 4 doors, and they look at the styling, they look at the beautiful curves of the rack, and they love it.
The maintenance on the wood, is that something you have to attack once a year, or how do you take care of
It
that?
depends on how much you use it, how much exposure to the sun, but usually every 2 or 3 years you'd revarnish it. This one needs to be done. It hasn't been done in a few years, and it's not that big of a job. You just kind of sand it down, spray some varnish on it, sand it in between coats, buff it, and it'll look like glass, and I plan to do that soon.
How is it that somebody that is considered, I think, in the car community worldwide to be one of the premier experts on bubble cars, mini cars, little cars, ends up with such a big car?
Well, I'm a sort of, as you know, a collector, you might say. I like all cars, and certain cars I have a fancy for. The Woodies, if you go to a Woody show, the people are just so friendly, so cool, warm. Nobody cares. You could drive a nice car like this, or you could drive a car where the wood's falling off, and you're just as welcome. And I just like the people that hang around Woodies, and I actually admire the art form. This was real craftsmanship when they built these cars years ago, and even though it's not a micro car, it's still beautiful in my eyes, and I can appreciate the craftsmanship and the rarity of the car.
Well, it's beautiful in the eyes of everybody here, especially when they come up and say you have to go tape that car. So, Mike, thank you very much for again being on the Vintage Vehicle Show.
Anytime.
A lot of the viewers of the Vintage Vehicle Show ask me what's it like to be able to see all these collections and meet all these great people. It's really a lot of fun, but one of the things that really gets me excited like a 16-year-old kid is to come to Bob's Big Boy in Burbank, California. This is such a great place, great people, great cars. A big thanks to Bob's Big Boy for letting us shoot here tonight. A big thanks to you for watching the show, and we will see you again next time. Bye-bye.